Alright, so I just played a 4-bar drum loop here, and I'm looking at the notes. And it, against the click, it sounds okay. But if you go in and look, a lot of my notes are actually ahead of the beat. Anyway, so what I do is I move each note individually, and I use Control on the keyboard, Control, Shift, or Alt, and the keys, arrow keys. The way that works is like this. So if you're highlighting that first note with holding down Control, if you go arrow up, you can move through individual notes. And then if you use Shift makes the note longer and shorter. Shift and Alt together is like a small amount. I don't usually use that one, particularly for drums. It's mostly, the magic is in Alt. If you hold down Alt and use the left and right arrows, you can nudge the notes from one place to another. So my process is basically, if I was to make this sound tight, I would go through each note and make sure they're not early. But what I found is that a little bit late can be groovy and sound cool, but early is not it ruins the groove somehow. So what I should do is copy this and keep the unmodified version so I could play them back and forth and see how much better it sounds. But I wasn't thinking about what I was doing, and now I'm almost halfway done. So anyway, I do this for the whole thing, and it sounds tighter as a result. And so what I would do for yours, another thing that helps is you can set the grid to match kind of whatever the grid of your drum beat is. Like this is set to eighth notes right now, because what I played was like an eighth note groove. 1 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, right? So it's like an eighth note groove. But if I played like 16th notes, I put on the 16th note grid. And you can have on whatever you want, but it's helpful to, only have the division notes you want. So then, like, if you were to see a note that's like over here, you would, if you're on 16th note, you might think that it's a 16th and put it over here. But if you have the other grid on, you would be like, oh, that shit's wrong. It should definitely go over this way somewhere. Here that got shitty. It got shitty right on this note. That's the last one that I corrected. The first part is correct until here. The groove fucks up on that note because that one's early. And when you start to stack like 10 layers or whatever on top of that earliness, it falls apart. Whereas I've just found if it's no earlier than the actual downbeat, but maybe sometimes quite a bit later, that can still be groovy. Somehow later works, but early does not. So this is what, let's get to the end. And you can go, that's the other thing with the keyboard controls, you can go pretty fast, right? Like I'm just like using the keyboard Control and the arrow keys and Alt and the arrow keys is all I'm doing here. But you can get into kind of a zen state and just kind of like work through it. I mean, if you're doing this for long parts, it can seem like a lot, but it's really worth it. In the end, you're left with a part that's like perfect, and you don't have to do anything else after that. Just a few more notes. Whoa. That one was not any... What the fuck was that line? I think I was just way off. Wow, that's really early. I don't know what this one... Did I do a 16th there? I don't... Anyway. So now that it's done, it sounds like this. Yeah, that was the 1/16th note there. So anyway, that's kind of what I do for that.